All right. So a student used a method of completing the square to solve the equation negative x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Select the best explanation of the error. Of the error. That means there's going to be an error. And then find the correct solutions. So I'm just going to write this over here and solve it, and then we'll see where there's a mistake, which is what I should have done the first time we tried this problem. So over here, when I look at this, I've got an A term. Well, let me back up. Remember that this is written in ax squared plus bx plus, maybe I turn it the other way, c equals 0. That's the way that it's written. So the way that it's written, I've got, wait, we'll do this over here. A is equal to negative 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to negative 3. Now when we go to complete the square, I need A. A has to equal a positive 1. It has to. So that means in order to make A equal a positive 1, I'm going to multiply everything by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative x squared becomes a positive x squared. Negative 1 times positive 2x becomes a negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 3 becomes a positive 3. And then negative 1 times 0 is just a negative 0. Just kidding, that's 0. Now I can do complete the square. So the first step in completing the square, and we've kind of glossed over, is we got to make A equal 1. That's the first step. So now that I have that, the next step would be I'm going to move C over to the other side. So I subtract 3 from both sides. Okay. And I get x squared plus, minus 2x is equal to negative 3. So from this point on, all the work is wrong because they did not multiply by negative 1. Okay? Well, so they said, well, multiply by negative 1, or that's the same as dividing by negative 1. So, yeah, if we look at the answer, so let's do that. So what the textbook is suggesting is that you divide by negative 1. So let's do that instead. So you get the same answer, right? So if I divide this by negative 1, remember when you multiply or divide, you have to do it to everything. So you still get this next line here, still the same. All right, so now what do we do? Well, now we finish the process. So now I'm going to add, remember I've got to add, for this one, now A equals 1, B equals negative 2, and it doesn't matter what C is at this point. But C equals positive 3. So I've got x squared minus 2x, and then I have to add something here, and whatever I add on one side, I have to add to the other. Remember that I have to add b over 2 squared. So then b over 2, so b is negative 2 over 2, which I got to square. This reduces down to negative 1 squared, which means I'm going to add 1. Okay, so then this whole thing reduces down to x plus b over 2. Oops, so it should be negative 1. So this will be x minus 1 squared. Remember, the next step, you're going to have x plus b over 2 squared. Okay? And so b over 2 is negative 2 over 2, which reduces down to negative 1, except we put it on the inside and we don't square it. And that's equal to negative 2. Now we take the square root of both sides. And don't forget, when you take the square root, you do the plus or minus thing. So then I get x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2. And I'm going to move down a line. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I get x is equal to positive 1 plus or minus, oh, this is negative 2. Negative 2, but remember that's the same as negative 1 times the square root of 2. What's the square root of negative 1? Anybody remember? Huh? I. So I'm going to say 1 plus or minus I square root of 2. And you could separate that. You could say x is equal to 1 plus I square root of 2, or I should say and is a better word. And x equals 1 minus I square root of 2. So it says the student did not divide by negative 1. Let me put that in a different color. They did not divide by negative 1 to make the coefficient of x squared be 1. The correct solutions are 1 plus I square root of 2 and 1 minus I square root of 2. Now, when you go to do this, it might assign different numbers to you guys. So the process is the same. The mistake will be the same. You just might have a different answer. Okay? Let's plug that in and check to see if we're right. Here it is. So they did not divide by negative 1, and it should be 1 and the square root of 2, I times the square root of 2, and 1 minus I root 2. Yep. And that is how it's done.